But instead, we're going to do a slightly more concise, thank you, Ethan, for the email, a slightly more concise one from Matthew. And Matthew wants to know if NBA awards are meaningless. Let's get into it. I want to know if it's just me that feels that the NBA awards, especially the MVP award, have become boring to track and borderline meaningless in the NBA. In the NFL this year, you can make an argument for Purdy, Prescott, Allen, Hill, etc., all being MVP. You can even make an argument for Mahomes if you enjoy being wrong, or Jason Kelsey if you need views for your WordPress blog. Zing! However, the NBA media appear to have given up on these awards and have instead resorted to picking up on someone every single week into the season. A week into the season and giving it to that person. I am not sure who puts in less effort. Voters deciding the MVP or the NBA deciding suspensions for domestic violence. Zing! This guy is on a fucking heater right now. For example, despite the impressive play from Chet and Ausar Thompson, we are just waiting for the remainder of the season until Wemby gets the Rookie of the Year award. And we did the same shit last year for Paulo. Dude, 100%. It is a similar situation with Coach of the Year. You cannot tell me that Steve Kerr should be considered Coach of the Year. I hate to be that guy who's like, but I can do that. But I can coach KD and Steph. It's called letting them be fucking KD and Steph. Then he goes on there. So there's a lot going on here, and he makes some great points. The only award that gets some debate is Defensive Player of the Year, but we also live in a world where Marc Gasol and Marcus Smart haven't won the award, have won the award, but Bam hasn't. This has turned into more of a rant than a question, but I just needed someone to hear me vent. Send me the invoice and I will pay you for the therapy session. But just remember the conversion rate to dollary dues. Kind regards, Matt. I think with the NFL, the reason that you see it bounce around so much is because those games every single week, first of all, there are fewer of them, which means that every game has more and more weight. But also the spectacle of an NFL Sunday, it's like all eyes on, right? Where how many days in the NBA can you confidently say that most people are watching like 50% of the games? At least, which is a lot, by the way. Christmas Day. Okay, what else? Opening night, maybe? And that's to your point, right? To your point, we decide it too early. I'm going to zag here. I think we kind of wait too long to decide it. I think we toy with it's going to be this person in December, right? And then it's the MVP from like December to February is always the same guy. And then it feels like at some point down the stretch, there's always this kind of knee-jerk, like reactionary thing that happens where sometimes they'll just flip. We've talked on this show in the past about how the NBA has done kind of a dog shit job at just handing out like retroactive MVPs because a guy should have won it in the past. Is it kind of crazy that Russell Westbrook has an MVP? Is it kind of crazy? Which, by the way, I think he points that out in this email. I think he also points out that it's crazy. That there was just a paragraph that I skipped, but I believe he also points out that it is insane that LeBron only has 4. Because if we're talking about who the most valuable player is, which is, by definition, the most valuable player, it's not necessarily who's the best player in the league, but for all intents and purposes, you would think more often than not that those two things would coincide. So LeBron James has only been the best player in the league 4 times. He's been in the league for like 20 years, and he's only been and by the way, he hasn't won one in like a decade? What the hell? What's going on there? You know what I mean? It's weird. I don't think it's not that they don't matter, right? But I think that there's a lot less weight to them, and the Victor Wembanyama point is bang on because it's not even a question. We were talking earlier in the season, again, like you said, about Ausar Thompson, about Chet Holmgren. And I think what Chet has going for him is the Thunder are sweet. The Thunder are sweet. He's not walking over in like warm-ups and stepping on a ball boy and turning his ankle. To Chet's credit, he's not doing that. Now, Wemby only missed 1 game for that, and I'm obviously kidding. But the spectacle of who and what Victor Wembanyama is, which is a fucking alien, by the way, is something that like we've been peddling this Victor Wembanyama content for too long just for him to not win Rookie of the Year. You know what I mean? And that's tough. That's tough because the truth is, if I'm Victor Wembanyama or if I'm a Spurs fan and I watch him play on the nights that he does play, yeah, a lot of the time I would say he probably does deserve it. He probably does. Who's the more polished player between him, Chet, and Ausar? By the way, I wouldn't even put Ausar in there anymore. It's no shade to him. It's just, it is what it is. It's Chet. It's Chet. and I don't know where they are age-wise. I just know that obviously Chet's technically been in the league a year longer, and Victor Wembanyama's like 12 years old. What one do people care about the least? Is it Sneaky Depoy? Because people don't really care about defense. They don't. I think people are really indifferent about that. Most improved. People kind of get up for that one, though. And I do wish that people would better understand sort of how that award works, and that, you know, when your favorite rookie doesn't win Rookie of the Year, you're like, okay, well, that's fine. Sophomore campaign, like, he's just going to go for most improved. No, it's not an award for second-year players because you're supposed to be better in your second year. You know, unless you have that, like, insane leap. Was it Tatum's second year or his third year that his beard started to connect? It might have even been, like, his fourth year. Whatever year it was that Jason Tatum's beard started to connect in, like, the middle of January, it, like, changed the trajectory of his career. I think it was the following February, maybe it was 2 years ago. The following February, he averaged more points a game than any Celtic had ever, which is kind of incomprehensible. Which, by the way, is a quick side note on Jason Tatum. He still dribbles, like, his dribble comes up so high. And this is kind of one of those things where we love to make fun of Sean Marion's shot, right? How just goofy it looks. He, like, practically shot with his pinkies. But he's been on record recently being like, the first time that anybody ever called that out, it wasn't in high school. It wasn't coaches. It wasn't like AAU. It wasn't in college. It wasn't the scouts. It wasn't during the drafting process. It wasn't my first year NBA coaches. It was nobody in the front office. It wasn't my teammates. It was some guy on the internet. It was like some beat reporter who was like, his mechanics are weird. And you're like, what? You're just some guy online. I only say that to say, who really cares if Jason Tatum's dribble is too high? He's fucking Jason Tatum. You know what I mean? This is kind of another one. I guess I'm realizing this in real time. I would love to hear people's takes on this. Maybe we'll do between this and the punchable face one. Maybe at the end of Monday's show, we'll do like I'll kind of compile some of my favorite responses, and we'll talk about it. We'll dive into it a little bit, just to kind of pass the baton off to you guys, and I don't know, maybe get some engagement here. I love hearing from you guys so much.
Computers now have primary
Let's move on.
Beautiful.
primary control,
Beautiful.
primary control,
Beautiful.
primary control.
Beautiful.